Okay.
I love those nights. I love when you just catch a flow and you just go, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, "Wow, it is really late."
It was on. I reached inbox zero for the first time in 400 and some days last night. I was feeling so great. I was on a rampage, right? Kill it last night. And it's
I want to give a shout out too. We got some Facebook. I got Facebook Live going over here too, so we're live in the Facebook stream.
They're not going to be. Look at you.
This is gonna be the tough part. This is a little meta because the hard thing is they won't be able to hear you. They'll only be able to hear me responding to you. So I'm actually going to try.
That's probably good for them anyway. That's good for them anyway.
I'm going to try headset so that it comes through the speakers of my computer, and we'll see if. How do I sign out? Do I sound like I'm a million miles away?
You don't sound. You're not a you know. Before you were 9.5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. Now you're like a probably 8 out of 10 or something like that. But this is good. This is
not terrible. That's not terrible. Can the face? I got some people live here on Facebook.
You're not bad. You're not bad.
People, can you hear Marcus when he talks?
Can you hear? Can you hear my outrageously sexy voice on Facebook Live? Probably not. Probably not.
Okay. So Roy English says yes. So this is cool. We're rocking Facebook Live. They can't see you, which is they can hear you.
What is it called when it's not repurposing per se? What is the word for this? It's when you're killing two birds at one time on social media. What is that called? I
don't know. This is my first day doing digital marketing, so I have no idea.
Dual purposing, or Billy Bob says ADD. Krista says it's brilliant. Okay. We're gonna jump into this conversation. We're gonna actually deliver some value.
Yeah,
we're gonna deliver some value. Hanley, for the first time, as you saw this weekend, I posted on the mediums.
Medium, yes.
Now,
how did it
feel? So, all right. Have you posted on Medium yet? We've been talking about the need to almost like submit ourselves to what is happening with the idea that you might just not own everything that you want to own. From a content perspective, sometimes you just gotta let the junk go. So, have you done Medium? What are your thoughts on it? Interesting thoughts, because some people are like, Scott Stratton says to me, "Dude, why did you post that on Medium?" Right? So, what are your thoughts?
I have one question for you before I get to my thoughts. Did you originally post it on your blog, or was it published on Medium?
No, obviously you never read my blog. No, I did not post that on my blog. I was sitting there and I said, I just want to talk about something. And I talked about it for like 10 minutes. And I talked about it with my fingers as I typed the thing. And I'm sure I've actually talked about that stuff before. Probably you and I have even riffed on it before, but it was fresh content. It was all green, baby. No recycling here. And by the way, we're going to go into duplicate content because that's why I put the link in the sidebar for those that are watching live.
Yeah, so this is what I would say about it. I love that you are expanding out from your home base centric mentality. It shows a whole new level.
You have a smirk right now. I'm watching you have a smirk, so there's something coming. There's a smirk.
That being said,
here comes the smirk.
That Medium as a house for original content is a waste unless you catch a wave that rides you farther than your personal blog could have gone. And so let me put a little caveat on this. I think that you have enough traction on your own site so if I was consulting you, which after hearing you, maybe you should pay for some of my time. I can send you a link for that. What you maybe consider in the future is take that same content, post it on your site, 3 or 4 days later, a week later, then you publish it on Medium to try to capture people who wouldn't have otherwise found your place with links back. Now, that doesn't mean you can't publish the full article, but I think that publishing it originally on Medium, what it does is now people who come to your site for that content, they're not going to find that because they don't go looking for you on Medium. And now if you want those people to see that content, you have to direct them away from your place to Medium. I think that the better usage for that is capturing people who wouldn't already otherwise find you.
Okay. Look, how long are we going to hold on to this rule that everything has to be published first on your site, Hanley? Now,
Okay.
here's the thing. Why am I not, or what makes me a non-expert now, even though I probably wasn't one before, just because I said, you know what? I want to experiment here. I'm going to do some publish first on different platforms, unlike everybody else that is just going to recycle everything over and over again and repurpose it on all these different platforms. I don't want to do that, because here's the issue in my mind. If I do that, let's say eventually Google changes their rules and they find that they don't like it. They think it's a bad idea, and then they just backhand everybody for it. See, a lot of people thought it was pretty slick to do a lot of these dupe content things before, and they got burned and it blew up in their face, right? And so that's one of the reasons I'm not so down with it. The second reason is if you teach people that your stuff on Medium is retread, well, then there's no reason for them to go to Medium in the first place. In other words, I want to go and share something on Facebook that says, this is just on Medium. It's just there. And they haven't already seen it 4 or 5 other times within my streams, if they subscribe to my junk, whatever. You see what I'm saying? You feeling me? I want there to be a separation of church and state.
These are some very valid points, though most of them are inaccurate. What I would say is, so here's my thought on this. You have to think about, what is the purpose of the Medium post? Why would you want to drive people who come to your site regularly to consume your content? Why would you want to drive them to Medium? Like, what is the purpose of having them going to Medium? Like, are you trying to build up a base there? Are you trying to be seen as a Medium writer? Are you trying to build your authority on that platform? Like, what is the purpose?
Trying to experiment with a platform that's obviously got a lot of followers, and that it might put me in front of different faces.
Yep.
And I just don't want to be the guy. I'm just telling you, Hanley, I don't want to be the guy that posts the same article on 6 different platforms. I think it's wonky. I think it's cheap.
I don't think you should post it in 6 different platforms. So here's what I think. Here's what I think a really good purpose Medium is. I think if you are unable to contractually have your own platform because you work inside a large organization, blah blah blah, I feel like Medium's a great place to be and to drive people, especially now that they're publications or magazines or whatever they're calling them now. You can do some email marketing on them. There is like a very light email marketing feature. But here's my thought. You want to use Medium for what you just said. There's a whole subset of people that don't go to Facebook to find articles. They don't go to Twitter to find articles. They go to Medium to find great content. And when you post to Medium, your purpose in posting there is to reach those people who you wouldn't have otherwise reached. Now, I don't think in any way, shape, or form you should publish every article that you write on Medium. I think when you have a article that really suits that startup, entrepreneur, self-help, there's a whole subculture inside of Medium, and that's really kind of how people skew this leadership, self-help, creativity, startup, entrepreneur world. When you have articles that fit that genre, you take that article off of your site and you repurpose it there. Because what you're saying is, these are people who would not have found me on Facebook. They wouldn't have found me on Twitter. They wouldn't have found me in these other places. But by taking a piece of my content and putting it into this space, I'm saying, here is something this group of people would like. I think it's completely wonky, to use your word, which is a great word, to take your content, put it on Medium, take the same article, put it into LinkedIn, take the same article, put it on Quora, take the same article, put it into Facebook Notes. That is a stupid strategy. That's just stupid. Now, it's being very strategic and understanding that if you have something that answers a very specific question, that's Quora. If you have a piece of media like a YouTube video or something like that and some text that goes underneath, that's a great thing for LinkedIn publisher. Facebook Notes, I think more personal, family-related topics, if it's like my journey as an entrepreneur or my journey, work-life balance stuff, that's a great Facebook note. But you don't want to just publish everything, but I think you also are doing your current audience a disservice by posting it first and only inside of Medium. And I've tested this, and that's why I'm saying it. I really do think
we have a tester here, ladies and gentlemen. We have a tester. Good for you for testing. Time will tell. Good for me for experimenting as well. Yeah.
I'm very happy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So speaking of this, in this multitasking that we are doing. So there was an article on Wired, and I am posting it here in the sidebar for those that are looking live. And we should probably change our title now. Let's talk about Facebook Live for a second, because you are double live right now, Hanley. You're double live right now. And so I'm going to read a little bit from this article that was found in Wired, titled Facebook is now ready to broadcast live video on its iPhone app. Okay, the feature, which should already be in effect for U.S. iPhone owners with worldwide expansion coming over the coming weeks, should be familiar to anyone who's watched a live stream before, be it on Periscope, Meerkat, or from a celebrity's Facebook account, which apparently I am not. A new icon now appears under your status update, showing an upper body with a double halo over the head, which apparently translates to live video. Write a short description of what your audience is going to see and start filming. You can see the names of friends who are watching, and they can comment on just how deftly you're scrambling those eggs. Pretty great opening paragraph there, by the way. Hat tip to Wired. Hanley, you're doing this live right now. Are you getting into any like interaction, or is like, what's going on here? Like, what do you think of this thing? Is it going to take over Periscope, or is it just like their poor attempt at live?
No, first of all, I don't think it's a poor attempt. I think it's good. I think it's got a ways to go, but we actually have 9 live viewers on Facebook. Brett Coors, insurance guy. What's going on, brother? Dave, the Kindlepreneur. Awesome. If you're into Kindle ebooks, check out Kindlepreneur. Dude is killing it. I got some other insurance people, Boyd McGee on. Great. They're all commenting. It's actually really fun. And it's kind of cool to think that these are probably peeps who would not travel off of Facebook into Blab for whatever reason, but we're capturing them. They said they can hear you really good. So this will probably be a new setup. This will give people a chance to check out the show and but stay inside of their Facebook world. I think it's a cool use. I like to test it. So we'll see.
We shall see. Look, if anybody else has experimented with this, let us know. It just seems like there's this like battle for live stream, and I wonder who is going to come ahead. And wish Brian Fanzo was here right now. I'd love to get his thoughts on it, but he is he's obviously at the forefront of live streaming content. Pretty interesting stuff that's happening right now. Okay, speaking of
Snapchat, all over
Snapchat. Which, by the way, okay, there's got to be. Do you realize? Speaking, and this isn't necessarily where we're going to go with the show right now, because we're going to continue to talk about live stuff. But so there's a whole ton of people right now that don't understand what Snapchat is. I would argue that I'm probably one of those that have not experimented with it much yet. But like 2 weeks ago, when I started seeing all these people with these yellow Pac-Man ghost avatars, like your goofy face on your avatars, I was saying to myself, what is the Pac-Man ghost doing around everybody's head? It looks weird. So my feeling is, if they're going to do this, they have to make the ghost fit your head better. Otherwise, you look really, really funny. Or they've got to have some way to have a cool-looking Pac-Man ghost if you're going to be on Snappy Chatty. That's not where we're going with this. Did you want to say anything about that funny ghost around your head?
I just, to be honest with you, I've been playing with Snapchat and I really love it.
Good for you for experimenting, Hanley.
I'm an experimenter.
Stay on the cutting edge.
Experimenter.
Stay on it. Okay. Speaking of cutting edge in Snapchat and live stream, this is our, by the way, I haven't even been talking about the sections. This is our DDYST sections. Dude, did you see that? Mm-hmm. And my buddy at George B. Thomas on the Twitters, he sent me a couple days ago. No, it was last night, I guess he sent it to me. He sent me a link to Gary V's new show, The Daily V. Now, some people love Gary. Some people hate Gary. I'm telling you what, this was one of the most interesting things I've watched in a long time. So a while, okay. So let me see if I can break this down without getting too excited and actually articulate myself like I'm not a bumbling idiot. We've been hearing for probably the last 5 years that we should all see ourselves as publishers. Gary has taken this to the next level and said we need to see ourselves. He hasn't said this. I'm going to put words in his mouth and he might take it from me and then he'll say it and get tweeted 4 million times. But he's saying, let's not just be publishers, let's be production companies. The dude with the Daily V show is creating essentially a day in the life of Gary. Now, he said a while back, and a lot of people ridiculed him for this, and I don't know if you recall this, Hanley, but he said about a year or two ago, there's going to come a day when some of these big thought leaders, these big brands, are going to have somebody that's following them around all of the time throughout the day, and it's just recording their content and putting it out there. And he says, I'm thinking about doing that as well. And a lot of people jumped on him for it because it made him sound like he was arrogant or something like incredibly just what is the word, self aggrandizing, or I don't know what the word is. Either way, I don't think anybody would argue that Gary minds watching himself on video. Heck, I don't mind watching myself on video if I'm giving a keynote. I mean, I enjoy it because I'm like, wow, this is interesting. I want to see it myself because I'm so into communication. But the thing about this, Hanley, there's so much that we could talk about this, not because it's Gary Vaynerchuk, but the reason why I think it's interesting is because he really is turning his media company and his life into a reality TV show that shows the true hustle of what he has been talking about for a while. And he said, and then I'll let you talk, forgive me for this long rant. He said that his biggest surprise after posting the first episode was how many people said, Gary, I've been listening to you for years, and I didn't fully understand what it meant to hustle until I watched this episode, and I was blown away how you literally did not waste a second of your day. What say you, Hanley?
Yes.
First, yes is what you say.
I want to give Stephen Q. Shannon huge props. He has us rocking both on the Blab and the Facebook Live. Just quick shout out there. Second of all, I've watched 2 or 3 of these episodes. And actually, in the most recent one, number 11, Gary said one of the really interesting things that I'm seeing in the comments is that people are surprised by how nice I am to other people. And what he's finding is that it really is. This is a reality TV show for entrepreneurs. That's what he's created. Is he said, I don't need to go to the networks. I can create my own reality TV show for entrepreneurs right on YouTube. Why? It's really incredible stuff. Now, what I'll take from it is, this is like an MBA on running a business. Now, granted, not everyone will want or should want the lifestyle that Gary lives. I mean, the dude is not home that often. He works what I would consider way too much for most people to have to be sane. But it works for him, right? It works for him, and that's fine. But it really is. It is so authentic in many ways. It's incredible. Even if you don't appreciate everything that he does or who he is, you have to appreciate the quality of the work, how open he is with his advice, what he's saying. And, this is something that comes into, and I know there's a lot of insurance peeps on this call. It's something I say in all the presentations that I give. Like, you have to put in the work to get the results that you want. And that's what this guy is showing, is that he wants to own the Jets. That's not everyone's goal. Personally, I think if he bought them and blew them up, that would be best case scenario for me. But, hashtag go Bills. So Tyrod Taylor, touchdown in the Pro Bowl. So my thought is not everyone wants his life. But what he's showing is that you can create a media company out of what you're doing, and it's not just what I had for breakfast. It actually does serve because I think this is what people are worried about, right? CEO comes in, you're following him around, says a couple things, has breakfast, what have you. It's not terribly interesting or valuable. And what he's saying is, I can add incredible value to people's lives and help them with their own businesses while showing what my life looks like every single day. And really it's quite incredible. And I think it's something he should be proud of.
Okay. So the question that I have is, how does what we're seeing with the Daily V, how viable is that for most businesses? Now, I think that instead of people sitting there saying, folks are going to look at this and say, I'm just so I still don't have the right word, but somebody help me. That's what's the word? No. And I already said that one, but it's when you're obsessed with seeing yourself, whatever that is. Okay. Some people are going to say self-absorbed. I think that's a pretty good one. Kate in the sidebar says that. So when somebody might say that Gary is self-absorbed, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it's amazing for his brand. I think it does a lot of things. So could this apply to a brand? Could this apply to somebody that's a CEO that's not narcissist is another word that you could say. So could this apply to a CEO that not everybody necessarily knows about? I think CEOs should oftentimes be more open than they, more like on the forefront. I would love, let's just take a hypothetical example here. I would love to see Papa John do exactly what Gary Vee is doing. I would love that. I would love to see how he manages his franchises. I would love to see a day in the life of the Papa. I don't know what it looks like, but what's cool about what Gary is doing, you see him shooting hoops in the morning. You see how he manages his day. Here's what's so impressive to me. And this is the difference between working, I've always thought that I worked hard. I realized I don't use every second like Gary does. And that's the great divide. The dude doesn't waste seconds. He looks at seconds as major things. But as he's doing this, he's still, despite the fact that he's so focused, he's still incredibly kind to people, which I believe that's who he is. I don't think he's making anything for the camera. I think he is who he is, period. And so you can be outrageously focused and be be incredibly kind at the same time. I think it's building his brand. I would love to see a lot of brands do this. And I think there's going to be companies that maybe offer this type of service to businesses going forward as create your reality show, whatever you want to call it, to build your brand. It's going to be called something. Somebody's going to give this a name. Maybe they're going to give it a name right now. I don't care what it is, but it's going to be a name. It's going to be named something. It's going to be more and more important, I believe, going forward in terms of brand story.
Can you be a productive narcissist? I was listening to, and let me I'll just a little tiny preamble to that question. I was listening to a podcast with James Altucher and Ramit Sethi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I'm a huge fan of both guys for different reasons.
And Ramit is definitely a narcissist.
Right?
A great one, though. But he's a genius, though. He's a genius.
So much value. So what I'm thinking to myself is, I know people hammer on Gary, on Ramit, on James Altucher, all as being narcissists. But they all they're three of the most, at least in the space that we live on a day-to-day basis, three of the most value-rich people that just give so much back to their audiences that I think to myself, maybe some slice of the pie, you have to be a narcissist to be good at this. If you're not looking at yourself, if you don't appreciate yourself on the camera, if you're not willing to talk about yourself and what you're doing and the work that you do, can you really give people the full scope of how to get better in their lives and their work and what they're trying to do?
It's good questions, man. Good questions. All right. We got to keep moving here. A couple more minutes left. We got about 10 more minutes, or actually about 8 more minutes left. We'll see if we can manage this. There was an amazing, amazing article in Forbes this week. And yes, I had to turn off my ad blocker to read it. If anybody has been watching our previous episodes, they can appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to try to give the sense for that. And if you're watching this live, you need to check this out. So there's this musician. His name is Ryan Leslie. And he's using what they're referring to here in the article as a superphone. The title of the article is Ryan Leslie's Superphone, Beating Facebook to the Scalable Personal messaging table. And I'm going to repeat that phrase, scalable personal messaging table. This is an outrageously interesting article. I'm going to read one little segment, and it's really in so many ways a conversation about CRM. It's a conversation about engagement. It's all these types of things. And hopefully you'll go to this page that I've posted in the sidebar if you're watching.
Did I cut out or did Marcus just cut out? Because I think he just stalled. Hopefully he'll be back in just a second.
Live on Blab.
For those watching on Facebook Live, Marcus just froze for a sec. I'm sure that he'll be back in just a second. You know, a couple people have been commenting, so I'll go back to this narcissistic question because a couple people on Facebook Live actually commented that the word narcissist is a little too harsh. I would agree with that. I'm not necessarily saying that we should strive to be narcissistic. That's absolutely not the point that I'm trying to make. It's more the idea that in order to build this idea of, whoa, technology fail, guys, technology fail. The Facebook Live video camera just crashed into my computer. So much for $6 tripods. So the idea is that we have to be willing to talk about our company. We have to be willing to talk about what we do, who we serve, and how we do it. And if we aren't willing to do that, then no one's going to know who we are, and they're not going to be interested in what we're trying to do. And I also think that we're not going to be willing to look back into our own work enough, right? If you're not constantly dissecting who you are, how you convey your message, the way it's perceived in the world, then you're not actually maybe taking yourself serious enough. I don't know. This is something that I have to work through, and maybe it becomes a blog post over time. But it's an idea that I've kicked around in my head, and I almost think for myself too, like maybe in an effort to not be over the top or too salesy, I don't look back and maybe criticize myself enough on the various things you're creating. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting question. I'm really hoping that Marcus gets back in here in the next minute or two. If he doesn't, then I guess we'll wrap the show there. But I highly recommend you check out this Superphone article that he talked about. And well, it's in the sidebar over here. It really is. It's really an interesting idea, and I wanted to get his take. I don't want to go too deep into it unless he comes back and I'm not hearing from him. So we may have just straight lost him. But for the future, I think this Facebook Live has gone really well, especially with people being able to hear Marcus on the phone. That's been very cool. And we've had some great comments and stuff going on inside the Facebook Live. So in the future, if you can't make the Blab or for some reason Blab isn't working, I'll have this Facebook Live up. It only gives us, it looks like 30 minutes of view time. And maybe we'll get Marcus, actually, Tim, that's a great idea. We'll get Marcus to have his own camera up too, so you can choose. Maybe that's a bad idea because then we'll get very competitive. But you'll be able to see Marcus as well in his stream, and we'll get him doing Facebook Live as well. So it looks, oh, here we are. It looks like we got him back.
This is why you have backup internet, people. This is the Boy Scout coming through right now because I was having so much fun reading this article. And then I get back to the screen and nobody's there. And I say, geez, it was so boring that everybody just left the show. So Hanley, I have no idea what you said for the last 5 minutes, but my internet went out and now I'm tethering up to my Verizon.
I think you should take us home on the phone, and then we can get out. I went back into a couple little things with the narcissism question because I just want to hear your point of view on this phone because I think you're really dialed into it.
Okay, so the point of the phone is this. We've got a guy who is making, Ryan Leslie, who's making millions of dollars with a small fan base. He's not a well-known rapper in the larger scale, but he's making millions because he's truly leveraging a different way of communication, a different CRM, if you will, with this super phone, with the direct to text messaging system. Super, super interesting. I think this is a big play for brands going forward, for businesses, for local businesses, for big, for small, especially for retail. I think it's going to be big. We're just reading about it right now from the musical standpoint. I think it's going to be way, way bigger than that. That's my thoughts.
I think you got it, brother. I think
All
you
right.
got it. It's really it all comes back to something we've all talked about a million times, and that's know who you people are, build the tight, small fan base that believes in you, because those are the people that really amplify your message. So I'm 100% down.
All right,
I think tools like as an app are allowing people to do that.
Well, indeed it is. And what impresses me is this guy, he's not doing the traditional, and we keep seeing it over and over again. That's why I'm experimenting on Medium with actually fresh content, is because I want to know what is possible, and we've got to be willing just to say, okay, maybe there's this other way that I can do this despite what everybody is doing or saying. I mean, from what I can tell, Gary ain't been talking about this, but yet Ryan Leslie is crushing it on it because he's being, as Krista Catrola says so well in the sidebar here in Blab, he's being uncommon. So speaking of uncommon, there are a lot of brands that do not do bigger businesses. I'm going to say just brands, but bigger businesses, larger businesses that stinketh at creating content in a blog that is truly, truly helpful. A lot of them say they can't do it because of red tape. I noticed a company that I thought was doing really, really well this week that I wanted to highlight before we give our one thing closing thoughts, and that is Colgate, Hanley. So I don't know the last time you brushed your teeth, so this might not be relevant to you, sir, but Colgate is really doing some incredible things when it comes to their blog, my man. And I was, it's just so interesting to me when somebody actually gets it. So they have an oral care center is what it's called, oral care center. And if you go into their site, and I've posted for those that are watching live, I've posted it in the sidebar. If you go to their site, they literally follow that philosophy of they ask you answer to a T. I mean, it's like any question or fear or concern you're having about, say, crowns or bridges, it doesn't matter. If it's dental, Colgate is talking about it, and it's an example of what is possible if a brand does it well. And by the way, there's nothing fancy about it. It's just incredibly helpful. There's not a lot of glitz. There's not a lot of glamour. And of course, as a subcomponent to the whole thing, they have their products. I think it's beautiful. Props to Colgate for giving incredible value through that they ask you answer mentality. They're doing a really, really great job.
You know what I love about it? One, I love that you brought up the point that it's not fancy, right? I feel like far too often, especially when you look at some of the larger brands and what they're trying to do, they almost get sold on, we have to, it's almost like they get some budget and it's like, we have to spend this every single dollar, and it's got to be some fancy buttons moving, things flying in. That's not what it is. It's basically just a very simple one-page template that draws people deeper into the site. And the thing that here's what I love about this. When you hit the hero image on desktop, right? I haven't looked at it on mobile yet. There are two simple calls to action to the exact same place. One right in the middle, how can we help? One at the very top, how can we help? That's it. And then,
Beautiful,
you
man.
scroll down. It's just, this is what
Very
this page,
utility.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
This is what it's, to me, it's all about. And they understand SEO. You can tell they get SEO very, very well. I mean, they say the things the way that the consumer would say them, right? Which is always really impresses me when somebody understands it that way. Man, they just really, really get it. And it's a great example. This is a massive company with a ton of employees, and I'm sure they have more red tape than just, 99% of companies out there, yet they're producing a lot of content, and it's very, very good content. Props to Colgate for making it happen. Okay, Hanley.
They're obviously following, my catchphrase, which is they ask, you answer.
Clearly, ever since you started saying that about 6 years ago, my life has changed. My life is dramatically different. So, Mr. Hanley, we always like to finish the episode with that one thing, right? The one thought you have for the day, the one takeaway that you have for the day. By the way, if you're watching live in the sidebar, we'd love to hear your one takeaway for the day. I'm sure Billy Bob, if he's still listening in the sidebar, will say something very, very snarky. That's his one thing, which is why we love him. So what's your one thing, sir?
My one thing, I have two things. My one thing is two things.
It's against the rules.
The first one thing is that I like the daytime show. We get exponentially more engagement. People seem more fired up, and the daytime show is something I think we should keep.
And you
keep
get
going.
awesome people from Scotland and Ireland, like Kate McQuillan, who's watching us from Ireland. You know, she can't really do this late at night.
Yeah, this time, this 11 a.m. Eastern seems to be working pretty well. I know it's a little early for West Coasters, but it seems to be working pretty well. And the second thing is I like that you are becoming a tester. I like that. I like that you are becoming a tester.
Hey, there's hope for pool guys. There's hope for pool guys. My one thing, Mr. Hanley, other than you reminding me of that phrase that you came up with, "They ask, you answer," was a great call, by the way. Great move on that one. I love your snark. My one thing is I'm still thinking about that Daily V show.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about how I use my seconds, man. How I use my seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I can do more. There was one moment when you see him doing these like quick video messages, and he's just thanking people, right? And they're just people, but he's doing the personal touch for one of the busiest people in the world. He's doing the personal touch of, hey, hey, Krista, this is Marcus. I just want to thank you for being amazing. Oh, and it's your birthday today, too. Love you so much. I'll see you now. So that is, he just gets it on all levels. He's incredibly human, yet he's incredibly profitable. You can be both, and you don't have to sell out to do it. That's my one thing, Hanley.
Actually, I just want to jump on that 1 second. Chris Marr just did a Snapchat the other day about a great content marketing guy. Has a Content Marketing Academy. It's a conference coming up. He just said the other day he did his first public video recording. It was a Snapchat, but it was like in public, in a place where there's people walking all over, and he's talking into the microphone, right? And I know that's scary for a lot of people. Gary Vee has obviously pushed past that. And I think that idea helps you, not that you should have to be creating video in public, but it's the idea that you can use that time when people are looking at you to do what would seem like relatively personal things, like answering people via Twitter. And that's how Gary Vee gets it done. He's in an airport talking into Snapchat as if there aren't 100 people around him, and he doesn't care. And I think when you can start to move past things like that, it really helps you dial into every second. So that was one of the things I took away from him.
Yeah, you've got to have an element. I don't give a horse's dung if you want to do this the right way. Hanley, I want to close with a couple other people's takeaways from today. Billy Bob, who actually said something serious, which, man, this is amazing. He said, my one thing, broadcast on two things at one time, which is kind of funny, but also very, very true at the same time. Another one, Steve, I believe that's the name. Steve said, testers help defeat FOMO, or fear of missing out. That's exactly right. Those that test do not have the fear of missing out and end up usually not missing out. And then our friend at Confluent Forum says, make people feel special in a real and authentic way. Mean it, own it. I think we'll close with that because it's pretty dang good. If you have not heard us before, we're on iTunes, y'all. So make sure you go to iTunes or the Stitchers if you're an Androider. Please leave us a review today. We would appreciate you if you'd leave us a review. Share us to your friends, to your people. And until the next episode of The Hot Seat, everyone, thank you so much. We will see you live next week.